Hello, welcome back to another Fast and Fun video, and welcome to part 3 of the how to replace your front suspension struts on the STI, the Blob Eye STI. This was supposed to be one video, supposed to take an afternoon, and we're probably now 6-7 weeks later, nearly 2 months it's taken, because of the whole issues around not being able to get whole suspension units and having to build my own with OEM parts from different places. And part 1 and part 2, which I'll put links up here somewhere, we'll talk about those. Part 3, good news is I'm driving the car. At last I'm back in the car, which shows that we've actually got the suspension struts in the car, which is great news. The only problem is we had a few issues with regard to filming the work. So what I'm going to do is going to cut to a video of me in the garage showing you what I did to get the struts back into the car. So installing the struts is very simple, relatively simple, and it's ideally done by sort of 2 people really. In fact, it's almost imperative you've got 2 people, because somebody needs to be up here at the top mount and then somebody needs to be feeding the strut through the bottom. Now, before you start, one thing you must do is find and locate the front anti-roll bar, which is this orange bar here, and then the lower bolt, undo that nut and remove the lower bolt. And this allows the suspension here just to drop and go into sort of a full droop. If you don't do that, what you might find is that once you put the strut in position, the suspension doesn't drop into full droop, and these here, these lower mounting bolts, you can't attach them. So you've got to disconnect that front anti-roll bar first, then feed the strut in, really the reverse of how you removed it. So really coming in here, going up. The person at the top then really is just looking to get the top mount and feed the lugs in through these 3 areas, and just nip the nuts up finger tight, so it's going to hold the strut will hold its weight there at the top. And then at the bottom, now with the front anti-roll bar disconnected, you should, with a little bit of persuasion, be able to hopefully locate we used a screwdriver just to locate these bolts. We put a little bit of copper slip on the bolts and they slipped in no problems at all. Make sure you put them into the same position as you remove them from. But obviously it'll need to go for tracking anyway. But get the bolts in and then obviously screw the nuts on. Torque setting wise, the top nuts here are torqued to, all 3 of them are torqued to 20 Newton meters, and the bottom mounting bolts, the nuts are torqued to 175 Newton meters. Once they're in place, it's then simply just reattaching your ABS line at the back, your brake line at the back and your ABS line at the front. Then get your wheel back on, but do not reattach your front anti-roll bar yet. It's imperative that the car is back on its own weight, and otherwise you could reattach the front anti-roll bar and the suspension could not be level. So get the wheel on first, get it on its full weight before trying to reattach the front anti-roll bar. So once the wheels are back on, it's off its jacks, and then the car's on its own weight, you then just need to reattach the front anti-roll bar. We thought this would be really, really difficult. Actually, forgive the shakiness, because I've got to use the camera without the gimbal. As you can see there, access is okay. It's not great, but it's certainly doable. Probably easier with 2 people. We had 1 person at the front. I was leaning in from behind for the bolt, and you can see there where it attaches. So it's definitely doable, and once that's connected back up, you're all ready and set to take the car onto the road. As an aside, while the car's been off the road for a couple of months, I've also connected a battery tenderer, CTEC trickle or battery monitorer. It connects directly to the battery. You're able to shut the bonnet. It doesn't catch here. The cables are designed to feed through closed bonnets. And that, I use CTEC. There's many different variants. I always think CTEC are the best. It'll monitor the battery voltage during periods of non-use, and if it detects a drop in voltage, it'll put a trickle charge on your battery, so your battery's always in tip-top condition. Always a good idea if you're storing your vehicle for several months off the road. So once you've got the suspension struts back in the car, the last thing you really need to do is make sure you set the car up correctly. So really what you need to do is take it for a four-wheel alignment. But before you do that, it's worth using the car for a few weeks just to let the suspension struts settle in, and that's what I'm doing today. It's a great excuse for me to take the car out. Winter's never a good time. I never really like to take any of my nicer cars out during the winter months because of the salt and the rubbish on the roads. But the odd sunny day in the winter, I can't see any harm in that. So I'm going to use it for a few weeks, get a few miles under the clock just to let the struts bed in. It's always important as well for your four-wheel alignment, which I haven't done yet, and I'll do that in a few weeks' time, is to make sure that you've got your tyre pressure set up. So you normally want somewhere between 3 and 5 psi more in the front than the rears. I'm running 33 psi in the fronts and 28 in the rears. And when you do your four-wheel alignment, again, it's better to use a full tank of fuel. Well, that's what I've been told. So full tank of fuel, get your tyre pressure set up, then a four-wheel alignment. Some garages, if you get to know them or ask, they will, after you've used it for a few hundred miles, you'll be able to take it back just to check, to make sure it's handling as you want it to. Whether it's too sensitive or not sensitive enough with regard to turning and the toe, etc. So it's always worth asking when you take it for your four-wheel alignment whether the garage will let you come back free of charge as part of your whole package. For people that say you should use your car daily and all the time, well, just do what I've done. Park your car away, do a bit of work on it, don't use it for a couple of months, because I'll tell you something, when you get back in the car, it's absolutely phenomenal. All that excitement when you first bought the car, those first few miles, it's just like jumping in another car again. And I just, this car, the Scooby, just absolutely, I love it. I love it for the noise, I love it for the mechanical nature, I love it for the way it drives. Almost the aggressive, beat you up type of nature. It just blows me away all the time. I know it's still a bit of a honeymoon period for me. I've only done about 1,000 miles in it in the sort of 5 or 6 months I've owned the car. But wow, what a car the Scooby is. And if you ever get a chance as a petrol head to own one of these, even if you've never considered it, I strongly recommend. They always say you've got to want, petrol heads have to own an Alpha. Well, I say petrol heads need to own a Scooby. There's nothing drives like it. So what I'm going to do with the car the next couple of months, I'm just not sure. January, February, March are really bad months for the roads, especially salt, and you know what salt like, it will just eat away at your underside. So I'll make sure, give it a good wash, get it cleaned underneath, and then get it away and parked up as well when I'm not using the car. But I do want it ready for the first or second weekend of April. I think it's the 10th of April actually, because I've booked to go to Japfest 2022. Really looking forward to it. Never been to Japfest before. Yeah, and I'm taking the car. So again, if anybody's going, if anyone sees me, please say hi, say hello, and you can have a look at the Scooby. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, if you have, please give me the thumbs up. Please subscribe down here somewhere, and stay tuned. There'll be another video coming up next week. Thanks all.